don't just build a product, go to market while you're building the product, because otherwise the risk is that you're building a product that no one will buy.
Welcome to the podcast B2B SaaS CEOs with me, Josef Fallesen, as your host. I'm the CEO and founder of VAM that helps sales teams close more deals and book more meetings through video messaging. The idea to this podcast was born because one of my personal goals is to be a world-class B2B SaaS CEO, and therefore I need to learn from the best. And I want to take you with me on this journey.
My name is Lars Grønnegaard, CEO and co-founder of Dreamdata, and you're listening to B2B SaaS CEOs.
Hi and welcome, Lars.
Hey Josef, very good to meet you.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Calling from Copenhagen. A bit rainy and gray here, but sun is shining inside always.
I said this when I interviewed Jeppe, also Mr. Pleo. I love Denmark because it's my second home. My grandfather was from Denmark and I was actually a Danish citizen, not Swedish, until I was 20. So I love Denmark. But we are not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about you, Lars. So first thing first, always. What does your company, Dreamdata, do? Please do the elevator pitch.
I'll do my pitch. So the company is called Dreamdata, and we're a B2B SaaS startup out of Copenhagen. And fundamentally, we help B2B go-to-market teams figure out how their revenue machine works. If that makes sense. And then we help them optimize that machine and basically drive revenue in a more efficient way. So that's the very high-level pitch. And then, of course, there's a lot of detail to it about how we do it and so on.
Then we move on, Lars, to storytelling. I love to hear stories. So I want to hear the story about you as a CPO at Trustpilot, then figure out and got the idea of Dreamdata. How was it born?
It's a long story. So you can say we're three founders of the company, and two of us were working together at Trustpilot, like you say. And we were running the tech and product teams together. So we were like peers. Ole was the CTO, I was the CPO of the company. And Trustpilot it's a great company, super successful. The monetization in Trustpilot is maybe a little bit different than what most people think. It's not a media company like many other review platforms. Trustpilot is really monetized as a B2B SaaS. So we all know what that is. So you're selling subscriptions of a piece of software. So we were responsible for building the software, but also for the whole consumer side of the platform. And that consumer side of the platform was driving a lot of leads for the B2B SaaS part of the business. So you can imagine you're a shop owner and you discover that there's somebody wrote a review about you on Trustpilot. And then you go to Trustpilot and you realize, oh, that's a review of me. What is this thing? What can I do about it? And then you engage with Trustpilot, but as a business. And then you become a lead for the sales team. So that was a very sort of fundamental part of the go-to-market of Trustpilot. But that sounds easy. How well did that actually work? Like how much business did that channel actually drive in terms of our pipeline and new business revenue and also retention revenue? That was actually quite hard to figure out. And what we were running into was a more fundamental problem of B2B go-to-market, that if you are not 100% sales-driven team, if you're doing marketing-led growth or product-led growth or a mix of product-led and sales-led, then you're doing a good thing because you're doing something that your customers want. They want to try the product and they want to investigate themselves, etc. So you're doing a very good thing, and marketing is a super efficient way of growing your company. But you're also creating a very big problem. And the very big problem is that to do that very good thing, you use a lot of technology, which is all, again, great for us who are selling technology, but you're using a lot of of course, you're using your CRM system, but you also have a website that is now super important to you. You're buying ads, you're sending emails, you're letting people into your product and letting them try it. And what happens is that it creates like a swamp of data in many, many different systems, you have your customer does not, from a data standpoint, live in one system anymore. He lives all over the place. And if you want to figure out how much revenue is actually tied into a specific activity, or if you want to say, okay, now I'm choosing between doing this activity and this activity, but which one is actually the best in terms of driving business for the company, then you have problems because you can't answer that question anymore. And that was the problem we had. So we solved that in, like, first you can say we went and looked for a product to fix it because we thought, okay, we're not alone. Lots of companies are doing this. There must be and we were using standard products like Salesforce, HubSpot. We're using a product called Segment for tracking, very standard. So we thought, okay, there's got to be a product for this that we could just buy and press a button and it's fixed, but it didn't exist. And then we went through the tedious process of solving it inside of Trustpilot, so building basically what a BI team is doing, move the data, work. Half a year later, you have some half-assed answers, and then you start making decisions. And we went through that process. And I think in that process, we realized, okay, one, this is a fundamental problem that any company that's doing sort of a mixed go-to-market motion is suffering from. And two, it's insanely powerful when you solve it, and it's also something that can be productized. And that was the founding sort of thesis of the company. And then we went out and did what you should do, sort of tested if we were completely pointed in the wrong direction. I think that's always a good assumption that your ideas are not very good. So we started out by testing if, would other people actually see this as valuable? And as we sort of saw, okay, we can get other people to buy into this thesis and pay for solving it, then we started building a product company around it. That was a storytelling mode.
Yeah, but you got me. That's why I love to hear stories, because I was so much more curious, like, when is the right timing for BAM to strike a deal with Dreamdata?
Yeah.
The stories is the best. Thank you for sharing, Lars.
Thank you.
And I have two big topics here in my podcast. You know this. It's leadership and business development. And then there is some fun facts, curveballs, etc. I will actually shift around now because we are already talking about this is hardcore business development. So I want to start with business development. So first thing here, can you share from your best practices some of the best tips and tricks regarding go-to-market strategies for a startup?
I think when you're starting up completely from scratch, like we were, it's super important to, one, don't just build a product. Go to market while you're building the product, because otherwise the risk is that you're building a product that no one will buy. So always test your sort of most risky assumptions. And the most risky assumption as a startup is usually that if I invest a lot of time in building this product, someone will buy it. That's a super risky assumption. So turn it around. Go and figure out if somebody actually wants to buy the product you're thinking about, and then build it if somebody wants to buy it. And the other thing is build as little as possible. Delay any commitment in terms of anything that is a commitment. Delay it as long as you can, because that way you're mitigating risk. If you can get very far with a prototype, well, then go quite far with the prototype before you build. And then, of course, assume you'll have to do a lot of cleanup and you'll have a lot of work cut out for you. But it's good work, because now you're working for something that matters, right? You know that, the features that you thought would be awesome, somebody's actually going to use them. And then it makes sense to build them, right? Don't go the other way and build a lot of features and then realize that nobody wants them. So that's a fundamental way of thinking about the early stage sort of go-to-market. So mix up product development and go-to-market at that very early stage. And then I think we made maybe one thing I would consider like a mistake, something I wouldn't do again. I think our idea of what does it mean to focus was maybe a little bit flawed. We thought that saying, okay, we are a product for B2B companies, that was focus. And I realized sort of that was not focus enough. Like when you are a small team, you should focus way more. I think what sort of changed my mindset was somebody told me about a company that was going to market, and the ICP was B2B SaaS companies that didn't have a user interface, so they were sort of pure API product. That was their ICP for the first 1 million euros or dollars of revenue. And then I realized, okay, that was a different kind of focus from what we were doing. So I think challenge yourself and think of like how much can you focus? Can you find a very narrow ICP that you can deliver your initial value proof on? Like maybe build the first $500,000, $1 million dollars euros of annual recurring revenue. And stay there, because that way you're sort of finding a small group of companies that you can make like very, very enthusiastic about your product.
There we have it again. They're like, when I'm done with my podcast, I will be Mr. Find ICP, because I hear this so many times, and it's so powerful. And the first part I don't hear as a lot, but that is a clear point of view that you are a product person, because this is something my co-founder he always tell me, like, Joseph, we shouldn't build anything before we have data points X, Y, Z, etc. So spot on here, Lars. Thank you for sharing. We move on to KPIs.
Yeah.
I want to know now, which top KPIs on a company level are the most important for you?
So I would say we're a venture-backed company. So when you set out on that journey, you're sort of committing to certain things, like you're committing to building a company very fast with a significant revenue base quite fast. So for us, the two numbers we follow the most are revenue growth. So basically, what is our total ARR stack and how is that growing? And then as we have sort of built up some ARR stack, then we are also turning to follow revenue retention really closely. So net revenue retention, making sure that we have net revenue retention on our existing customers. So those are the two key numbers we follow from a business standpoint. I don't think it's very different from what other early stage SaaS founders would be looking at. You can say they are, of course, they are maybe lacking indicators. So you should be looking at other things before that, right? Are you on the growth side?
You gave me two really strong business KPIs, but if I share for at least one product KPI, what would you say are the main product KPI from your perspective?
I think it's the main KPI at all is usage KPI. So we care about the number of users in a company that we have using our product, because we see that as a strong indicator of product adoption. So that is maybe the number one KPI we're following. At different times, we're following other metrics. We have a free product. So we have a free product and we have a thesis about sort of a self-service product in this space. And that means that we are right now very closely following sort of our initial activation metrics. So basically, of all the people we convinced to take up our free product, how many of them actually log in, how many of them connect our tracking, and then how many, later we'll get to how many come back, but we are sort of starting at the very early end of that funnel. But those are maybe more tactical key results that we're following because of where we're feeling the biggest pain at the moment.
Yeah. And this leads me into my VAM-oriented question, because I'm building a sales tool with the core video. So I'm super curious about outreach. So I want to know, Lars, what would you say is the best way to do cold outreach to you?
I would say sort of successful cold outreach, I experience it in many different ways. I think email can work, calls can work. I think in the end, for me, what makes someone successful is not really something under their own control. It's where I am in my cycle relative to their product. So if you're reaching out with a product that it is not solving a problem I have now, I'll be quite sort of standoffish. But if you're reaching out with a product that I know I will be needing, or a problem I know I'll be solving over the next 6 months or maybe even right now, then I'll take the call, and take the meeting. So it's not super helpful for people doing outreach because it's really about the timing of the outreach, and there's not really a lot. Of course, you have your sort of triggers that help you evaluate when to reach out, but in the end, it's mostly about timing.
So the timing, and then if you're gonna want to get Lars into a meeting, you need to spin it right now.
And then I think just being quite transparent about what is the company that's reaching out. I think a lot of people fail to sort of articulate the name of the company very clearly. And on a bad phone line, it can be super annoying. And actually, like, usually that's my number one entry point, is like, who's calling me? Sometimes it's a company I know, and then I'll know immediately whether I want to listen to the pitch or not. And I'll just say, I know what the product is. It's great, perfect timing. Let's take a meeting. Or, yeah, I know what product X, Y, Z does, and the timing is not great for us right now. But I would say I'm open for outreach. I also do like respond positively on LinkedIn. There's not really any sort of method that I'm against. I think it's mostly about being succinct to the point and also respectful of people's time. So if I say, I know this isn't for me, it's great. Or if sometimes I say, this isn't for me, but try again in 6 months, then I think we'll be in a different spot. Like I had but I think there are many examples of this.
Yeah, I think we stop there and move on, because you're a busy person, so we don't have too much time. And this means that we leave the business development segment and move into a fun fact. I want to know, Lars, a fun fact about yourself that most people don't know about.
So I think there are definitely many fun facts. I think one of them is one of my first, maybe the first thing I did in my career at all was shearing sheep at the Faroe Islands. I think that was pretty crazy. So I think that's a fun fact that not a lot of people know. It's not a career I took up. I wasn't very good at it, and I managed to shear a few sheep, and then I nipped one of them, and I felt really sorry for it, and then I didn't do it again.
This is actually things like this I fishing for when I asked this question. Thank you for sharing that. And being a bit more serious then, mistakes.
Yeah.
What's the biggest mistake you have ever made in business?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's like what I was talking about sort of our ICP and approaching that and not really getting what it meant to focus. I feel that was a pretty significant mistake and something where we could have made a good, like we could have, things would have accelerated faster if that hadn't happened. I don't think I want to take blame for it all by myself. I think we were a team learning that lesson. But that was a quite sort of impactful mistake where, if you're doing this journey, you actually don't have to do that. You could actually just focus and not first unfocus and then focus. So I think that was a pretty significant one.
Here we have it again. ICP. So many smart people like you, Lars, are telling.
There are many versions of it. And I think another thing is, for instance, if you're doing any kind of product business, you think about product market fit. And I think, again, it's kind of a fundamental mistake that I always thought of it as like, okay, there is a market and now I have to build a product that fits the market. But sometimes it's much easier to go the other way. Like, okay, you have a product and now I'm going to go and look for the market that works with this product. Because your product might actually maybe be super excellent for some narrow segment. And depending on what you want to do, it doesn't mean that you can't expand that segment later on, but maybe that particular segment has so much pain and your product is actually sufficient. Whereas if you move out to other segments, the pain isn't as expressed, and then you don't have product market fit yet. So I think this sort of, it's a bit the same, like not thinking about the market, not thinking about ICP, not thinking about who you're selling to enough. I think that's a big learning for me.
Powerful. And this leads me into topic of your choice.
Yeah.
You, for a few minutes, will talk about something that you are nerdy and very passionate about. So it's time for topic of last choice.
I think the big thing for me at the moment is if I should I'm staying within the business side of things. I could also go outside of that and talk about pizza, but I think it's maybe off topic.
Some have done it, so it's totally your choice.
Yeah. But no, I think for me, go-to-market data, it's also the space we're in, using our own product to figure out what is actually going on in our revenue machine, what is converting, what's not converting, what is our conversion actually from demo to sales qualified lead, demo to new business. So sort of going very deep in the data about our go-to-market. That's where I spend a lot of my nerd time. You can say our product is this, we clean up that swamp I was talking about, which basically gives you a very nice, one of the things we give people is like a very nice database of all this data. And for me, querying that database, figuring out answers to my questions about our go-to-market, I spent a lot of nerd time there. And I taught myself SQL, so like database query language, to be able to do this. And that has that's my nerd time, and I enjoy it a lot.
And why, if you take it one level deeper, is it just because of the company you're building, or is it coming from a like bigger, when you were younger, curiosity? Why, if we go one layer deeper?
So I think it's both that it is a very important problem for us at the moment, both as a company, but also it's a problem we solve for other companies. So there are many reasons for me to engage a lot with that problem. I would say going to the level of sort of querying the data directly and working very directly with the data, I think that's just my nature. I always like the sort of very technical side of things. And it also speaks to maybe, I like to sit alone with a computer and look at the screen and nerd and nerd out with data. It's just something I love. I don't know if it's something, maybe it's something in my childhood. I don't know.
That was a perfect period for this topic of law choice. So we leave it with that and move on to an external question from a listener.
Yeah.
And today it's time to hear from Thibaut Hartwig. And this is his question.
Hi, my name is Thibaut Hartwig, and I am, according to very secure data, the world's best VAMer. And I've been credited with the awesome opportunity to ask you a question. My question to you is the following. What is the most common strategic change that you have seen your customers take on after they have reached your aha moment using your software? I would love to hear that answer so I can take it on to my own startup, Organize, which you might want to like to check out. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.
Yeah, I think the biggest strategic change that a person or a company does with, like, once they sort of reach that stage of using our product is that they start optimizing campaigns, anything that they're doing in their go-to-market, they start optimizing towards actual sort of revenue results, be it building pipeline or closing new business. And I think that's a very fundamental change that happens in a company when they adopt the product.
Yeah, of curiosity, I have a follow-on question on Thibaut's question. Thank you, Thibaut, for the question. And that is, what is your aha moment, if you want and can share?
I think where people really feel that they are getting an aha moment is when they see sort of a complete customer journey mapped out, just one. So I think if you're just looking at account saying, oh, we had 50 of this type of journey and they came from this, that's a little bit unpersonal. But when they see that view of, okay, this deal that we won, this is actually what happened. And you get that complete picture, and you realize that now you can ask, aggregate questions across all of those customer journeys that are in that database. That's sort of the aha moment for people. So seeing that single journey is a pivotal moment for people.
Yeah, I'm glad that I asked this following question. And yes, once again, Thibaut, thank you for being a quick part of this episode here with Lars. But we need to move on. So, leadership.
Yeah.
First thing here, always. Are you a good leader, Lars?
Yeah, I think I'm the type of person who's tempted to say no. But I think it depends a lot on who you ask. I think for some people, I'm a good leader. For some people, I'm probably a crap leader. I think I fundamentally believe a lot of leadership is about getting out of the way and letting people, you set a team of people that want to go in the same direction as you, but then you don't want to sort of be getting in their way all the time and telling them what to do. So you sort of step aside and enable them to do what they think is bringing you forward, like in that direction you're all taking. And I think for me, that is, if you are a person who likes that style of leadership, then I think I'm a really good leader. If you are a person who fundamentally would like to be told what to do, you probably will not like me very much.
Talking about superpowers as a leader, because I think you have already at the end there tapping into it.
Yeah.
What would you say are some of your core superpowers as a leader, Lars?
I think, getting out of the way, helping. So I think as a leader, you should be careful to not get in the way of people doing what they are good at. And of course, you should be an enabler. So I think I'm quite good at that, sort of like help out where you can. But I would say in a setting like ours, which is a small company, there's not that many people that get in the way of people doing their job. But in larger companies, they don't have to be very large. Then I feel that is a superpower as a leader, is this sort of clearing the path, making sure that other people can do what they are good at. And I feel that some of the leaders I have had that I enjoyed working with, that was what they were very good at. They were very good at sort of say, okay, Lars has a direction, he wants to do this. I hired him because he wants to do this. So now I'm going to get out of the way, and I'm going to get other people out of the way so that he can do this thing that is beneficial for the company. So I think this sort of getting people out, clearing the path, I think that's a superpower. I think then it's about like curiosity, questioning, asking people. I think that's generally a great superpower to have, sort of being interested in what is the motivation behind something, trying to understand that. I think that's also a superpower.
Moving on to bad things. Can you share what you think is the worst things about being a leader, and how do you tackle them?
I think one of the worst things is sort of having to keep secrets, and especially like secrets that matter to people. I think you can also be super transparent and you can tell everybody everything all the time, but for me that creates a situation where people are defocused. I mean, it can be bad things like you have to let some people go, and you have to keep that a secret from everybody until it actually happens. If you go out and say, hey, we have to let 4 people go, everybody will stop working and thinking about whether it's them. So basically you have to sit on, like, you make the decision, then you figure out who is going to go. And then in the end, at the very last moment, you tell people. But this period where you're keeping a secret, it can also be a positive secret. It doesn't have to be a negative one. It could also just be, hey, we're fundraising and it's going super well. I mean, that can also, if everybody's just sitting there and thinking, okay, like, oh, next month we're going to have 5 million in the bank account, we can go and spend, and then they just don't do anything for that month because they're just thinking about spending the money. So it can also be positive things you have to keep from people. But this sort of sitting on knowledge that you know that people would overall appreciate to have, but you as a leader have decided that it's not beneficial for the company that they have that knowledge right now. I think that's not a that can be challenging and feel, because in general I would say I prefer being super transparent, but I acknowledge that with certain things, let's say you have to restructure. It doesn't have to be negative. It just be you have to restructure. So, you have 3 product teams and they're working in like A, B, C, and now you want them to work in X, Y, Z instead, or split them into 4 teams. If you tell them a month before you do it, they will not produce anything for that month. Whereas so basically for a month, you have to sit on that information. You made the decision and they would actually like to know, but you don't tell them because then they would just stop working. And you want the best for the company. So I guess that's like, I think any case where you have a belief that something is good for the company, but you also know that for some individual people, they would like something else. That's not, I think that's just challenging for a leader.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay, last thing here in the leadership segment. If you have to summarize leadership from your point of view with one word, what would that be?
I would go for empower. So empowering people. And I was debating whether to say enable. They're very close to each other, but I'll go with empower. I made my choice.
Empower. Let's stick with that. And this means that we are entering the roundup. We only have 3 questions left, the classical ones. And first thing here, I love this question is, if you would give yourself, your younger self, when you were a younger CEO, 1 to 3 top things to think of that you now know that you didn't know, what would you tell yourself?
So I will go with this one. Like, other people are motivated by different things than yourself. I think that would have been very good for me to know. I would have told them that leadership is not about telling other people what to do. It's about enabling them, empowering them. And then I would go for if it was about sort of becoming a successful startup founder, I would definitely share the part about the ICP and say, hey, B2B is not focus. You have to be more focused than that.
Yes, we have 3 things. And now with this question, I'm just fishing for other smart, cool guests. Which other 2 B2B SaaS CEOs do you think are interesting and doing great stuff and would like to listen to if I would interview them here in B2B SaaS CEOs?
Yeah, so I have one. So, and I name her often when I'm asked this question. So I really like Stine, who is the CEO and co-founder of a company called Openly here in Copenhagen. It's sort of a similar stage startup to our own. So I think Stine is she's a successful CEO. She's very different from me. She is extremely passionate about what she does, and she's also very, very strong on building culture, I would say. So I think she's a very good interviewee for a podcast like this. I don't have a second one. I'll just go with Stine.
Then we stop with that. And thank you for Stine. And last thing here. Where will Dreamdata be in 5 years?
Yeah, I think Dreamdata, we always wanted to build a company that was about changing the way that you do go to market. So one of the fundamental things we will see in 5 years' time is that we will be impacting go to market much more directly. So I think automating revenue, not just analyzing and recommending, but doing sort of real automation of revenue, we will be part of that. So I think that's an aspiration for the company to be that. And of course, then from a sort of company size standpoint, we will be, your 250, 300 people, offices in the States for sure. We have a big market in the States, and a nice double-digit AR number in millions, and closer to 50 than to 10 for I would hope.
Almost 300 people. You have had a big impact of the whole revenue segment. And 30, 40 or 50 million euros
Yeah, that'd be good.
in ARR. Lars, I wish you and the whole team at Dreamdata the best of luck with that.
Thank you, Josef.
And now I'm turning to you who has been listening. 2 quick ones. Number 1, press the subscription button because I have great episodes and guests here. And number 2, tell a friend or a colleague to listen to Lars in B2B SaaS CEOs. And Lars, a huge thank you for putting aside around 30 minutes of your precious time together with me to help the community and me to keep on learning.
Thank you, Josef.